think we'll just jump right in. I'm sure we'll have a few more people kind of straggle in. If you're here and ready to go, I recommend having some paper and a pen handy, or a pencil, or something you can take some notes on. If you've got a planner, have it with you. If you already have goals set, have them nearby. I'll give you a minute to do that. All right, people look pretty ready. So, guess what? It's basically the end of the first quarter. What the heck? Where did it go? How is it almost Easter? Wasn't it just January? And we pretty much don't have snow around anymore either. So we're moving into quarter two, and now is the perfect opportunity to revisit your goals for the year. If you are setting goals quarterly, which is what I do and I find to be really helpful, or if it's something you don't do, I would highly recommend considering it, because you can give yourself a more manageable bite of the year, give yourself a closer deadline, so you're much more likely to get stuff done and take your time seriously and use it well, than if you were to set a whole 1-year goal. Does anybody here set quarterly goals or monthly goals? Do you have any aim for how many transactions you're trying to close this year, happy clients closed?
Yeah,
Or yeah, go ahead.
yeah. So one thing that we've been talking about on our team, which has made a huge impact and I think is really interesting, is the difference between goals versus commitments. Um, and so what we do, in our team meetings is we share our goals for the week, whether it's professionally, personally, both. But we kind of switched it to commitments, and we're tracking it and paying attention to who's hitting a commitment, because I think there's kind of a different mentality when you say to a group of people or to an accountability partner, or even to yourself, like, I commit to do this in the next week, rather than, oh, well, my goal is to do it. I'll try to get to do it if I can. So that's, and all of our team members, and myself included, have been a lot more on top of hitting our commitments. So that's something that I've kind of been trying to work on as well. But I'm not setting like monthly or quarterly. I mean, kind of annually more so, but trying to break it down would be good to work on.
Cool. That's a great point, Benji. The way that we talk about our goals, and
This
even
gonna
the
annoy you.
language we use around it, is really, really important. Like you're right. When you set a goal, or you like make a New Year's resolution, they're kind of like, I'm gonna try. It's there. I didn't really do anything to actively ensure this is going to happen, but like, it would be cool, right? Like, it's just sort of a half commitment, an idea, not something you're fully dedicated to happening or have really thought through or planned out for, like, how is this going to happen? Instead of just being like, man, it'd be real nice to sell 12 homes this year. The end. Like, how are you going to get there? Like, what are you doing to get yourself to that point, and how are you tracking it and celebrating your progress and making note of what's working and what's not, and planning for the next steps towards that goal. So I really find that breaking down into quarterly goals makes it more manageable, but also still gives you room to think big. So for my team, we're planning to have 100 happy clients closed by the end of the year. So it's myself and my team agent, Elizabeth. I'm responsible for 60 of those clients. She's responsible for 40 of those clients. And it's nice to just say that, but the only way we're going to get there is if we're being really intentional about how we're using our time, how we're tracking our progress, and where we're prioritizing each day, each week, each month. And that ultimately is going to lead to meeting or exceeding our goals, right? Now, how many of you feel like you have about 50 things that you're responsible for, and you sometimes have no idea what you should be doing in this moment. Me too, sometimes. Yeah. Our job requires 1,000 hats, right? You're talking your client through the heartache of not getting an accepted offer. You're rushing to get a scheduled showing before it fills up because those 15 to 30-minute windows block up really fast for a house in Whitefish Bay. You're trying to find more information about what the heck the information on this well water test means. You're doing all these different things, right? And these things have to happen, right? Like, you're responsible for them happening. How the heck are you supposed to have time to work on your goals? These are all these things related to working in your business. And then, not to mention, oh, by the way, the stuff on your business, right? So like building out your systems and making sure that you've got everything lined up when you write an offer, that you understand what's in there. Taking the time to practice, like Smin was talking about this morning, before you're actually writing an offer or a listing contract for a condo or something like that. So there's all kinds of stuff you're responsible for. And those things are what I would consider project goals. That preparation, that understanding and mastering your craft, that practice, that's a project goal. So getting really great at writing offers, that's a project goal. That is something that has a completion that is obvious in terms of your understanding and ability to do something, or to finish something that is partially completed. So those project goals are something you can set for a quarter, or they may even just be like a month-long goal. So those things you can plop into the basket of project goals, and know that you can pluck those out one at a time and set a time frame that's realistic to get those done. And they don't necessarily have to be a full quarter. But I found it relieving to know, like, okay, so I can say that I have a project goal every quarter, and maybe that's a different project each month of that quarter. When it comes to the big goals, we're talking about your production. We're talking about some really important progress within your business. So for me, every quarter, every year, I have a production goal. And my production goal is not just, I want to sell this many homes, though that is a place to start. It's a simple place to start, right? It's something you can track pretty easily, something you can come up with pretty easily. But at the end of the day, does it really get you in the heart to say, I want to have this many happy clients close by the end of the quarter? I mean, it's just a number, right? There's got to be more to it, right? To really push you to focus on the 20% of activities that get you to the 80% of results, right? So 20% of how you spend your time is going to get you the majority of your results. So 20% of each day, that prioritized time where you're focused on the most important things to get you to your goals, which for you and for any agent who's not new is usually lead generation, right? It's connecting with people, building those relationships, scheduling appointments, having appointments that actually happen, Zoom or in person, depending on where you are, your comfort level, your vax status, right? But that's really where you're going to be breaking it down, is how am I spending my 20% of my time to get to that 80% results, the most important piece of my business, which for pretty much all of us, unless you have a very specific role in a team, comes down to lead generation. And then that other stuff, the project goals, they have their own place. They can also be something that you prioritize and plot in your week. And outside of that, the day-to-day things we do, those things require time, right? You can leverage the help of a person on your team. You could leverage the help of Renee and Julie, who you can hire per contract to help you with that contract to close part of your business. You could bring somebody on part-time. There are lots of options for you in terms of the working in your business, the getting your clients from contract to close stuff, right? It doesn't have to be all you. It can be, but you've got to be really good at prioritizing your time if that's what you do. When I started, I was a solo agent, but by my second year, it was very obvious I needed help. And all I brought on was an assistant for 5 hours a week. And it was just to do some of that lead generation, constant contact kind of stuff with people and a little bit of marketing. And it just took enough off my plate that I could focus more on lead generation direct to people, and that relationship building that's such an important part of that initial meeting with somebody to the point where you're writing an offer with them and kind of getting them through from contract to close. Because I really do believe that that part of the process is also lead generation, right? You're working with somebody, showing them how dedicated you are, tending to their needs, anticipating their needs, really being a stellar agent for them is something that they're going to remember and tell their friends while they're in the process, and potentially bring you referrals. So it is an important piece, but it's not the only thing. So there's lots of other things you're needing to do with your time, right? You've got title companies who want to have lunch with you. You've got lenders who want to talk to you about, if you have any buyers that you can send them. There's, training opportunities. You have to order signs and your business cards and all this stuff, right? Like, these things have to happen. You can't just not do some of the basic stuff. And other things can wait, believe it or not, are not necessary to do right now. I find that when you have quarterly goals set, it is much less anxiety inducing if I can say, okay, this quarter, I am focused on my transaction goal, my how many happy clients am I going to help this month, this quarter, and close by the end of the quarter. That's my biggest number one thing, right? To keep the business moving forward, to make sure we're bringing in enough money that I can pay my assistant, to hit my salary goals and my profit goals for the business. But also, I've got this other stuff. I've got these other projects, and I know I can't accomplish all of them in one quarter. So it just gives me relief to say, okay, but in 3 months, I can go back to my basket of project goals, my list of ideas, all these other things I think would be so fun to do that I just know is not top priority right now, because top priority should be the activities that are getting me towards that major goal. And if you are a real estate agent, unless you have a different specific role on your team, your goal is to sell homes, right? To have closings, to have happy clients sign off and close, and to get that check and to put it back into your business, right? And to help support your family, right? To support your lifestyle. That's what it's about, right? We're working for something. So being able to break that down in terms of the dollars and cents that you want to be bringing in is a good place to start. Has anybody gone on to Command and set up goals through there, or even just looked at it? Anybody? So in Command, if you sign into Command, it's like the first thing at the top that's like, hey, you haven't set your goals for 2021. You should do that. And it's very easy to do. You just plug in your desired profit for the year. Profit, because of course, how much you sell in real estate and how many dollars you bring in gross commission income, or GCI, is not how much money you have at the end of the year, right? Your GCI is before your split to Keller Williams. It's before your split to the launch program. It's before your taxes. Don't forget about taxes. Put money aside, pay quarterly. It's money for, all the things you need to run your business. And if you have an assistant or someone you're paying, all that stuff comes out of that GCI. So what you really need to know is, how much money do I want to make by the end of the year? How much money do I want my business to profit by the end of the year? So that number is super important. You plug that into Command, and then you put in your average buyer commission and seller commission. Now, if you've never sold a home, or you've only had a few, how the heck do you know what your average is? Well, look to your sphere. Look to your farm. Where are you planning to work? What price of homes do you expect to be selling? Have you so far? Do you likely have coming up? You can be conservative with this. It can adjust as you go. But think about your typical average sale price, or what you aim to be your average sale price, and then estimate your commission for a sale with a buyer or with a seller. With a buyer, it's 2.4% most often. With a seller, it's usually 3.6%. So it makes a big difference. This is why when we talk about where you should focus your energy, the big three that come up are leads, listings, and leverage, because listings do tend to bring you a larger commission. And also, if you've heard Charlie say, listings have babies, they attract buyers, they attract other sellers. So that's something to keep in mind too. So once you have those commissions in place for buyers and sellers, you have kind of your average sale price to get to that point. Then you can break it down backwards. And there's a chart in there that looks like a funnel. And it basically says that you start out with your leads at the top, which should be the biggest number. That becomes your contacts, which shrinks a little bit, right? Because not every lead comes to fruition, right? Hey, I got a friend who wants to work with you. Cool. Send me their contact info so I can reach out to them. Well, maybe that doesn't happen right away, or maybe it takes a while, or you forget. Well, suddenly they're not a contact, they're just a lead. And then they become appointments set. This requires proactive action on your part. This is part of lead gen. This is part of the time you spend each day to make sure that the people you're connecting with become clients who close, right? So from leads to contacts to appointments set, that funnel gets a little smaller and a little smaller and a little smaller. And the transition from each to the next is, you can estimate conservatively, there are numbers set up in Command, 75%, and you see that number shrinking. So you think like, oh, this is great. I got 5 leads. This is going to lead to 5 closings. It probably won't. You should have more eggs in your nest than you expect to hatch, right? Some of those aren't going to work out, or maybe not right away. And if you're planning for a career and not just a great year or quarter, that's fine. Just know they're there and keep touching them until they become, a regular contact or an appointment set. Appointments set don't always become appointments that actually happen. So that gets a little bit smaller. So appointments kept. Then you have agreements. This is big. Getting people to sign a buyer agency, getting people to sign your listing contract. This is agreements made. It's on paper, it's legal, they are working with you. That's a big step, important piece. And then under contract or pending, which holy cow, right now is that a challenge, right? Especially when you have a buyer, getting an accepted offer. This piece can take a while, and this percentage may be lower than it usually is this year because of the major challenge of getting an accepted offer with a buyer. Another reason to focus on listings. And then closed, of course. It is not a guarantee when you have somebody under contract, accepted offer, that it's actually going to close. So doing your due diligence to keep things moving along, communicate, watch for any potential pitfalls before they happen, being proactive, touching base with your client and the co-broke, keeping things moving along smoothly is all super important to get to that next step. So these activities do directly apply to getting you to your closed transactions goal, right? Your happy clients closed at the end of the quarter or the end of the year. But the biggest piece is that leads portion. And we say it so much, but I have to stress, this doesn't mean that you have to just sit at your desk for 3 hours a day and call people. You don't have to do it that way. There's all kinds of things you can do to generate lead connections with people, right? What are some other things you're doing besides just calling people or knocking on doors or doing open houses? What are some other things that you're trying that you're either finding to be successful or not? What are you giving a try?
I'm still writing letters. I'm still going with that.
Cool. How's that going?
Good. I mean, I'm just aiming at my neighborhood that I'm in right now. And whenever I walk the dog or something, I'll kind of just pick a few addresses where I know might be older people who are probably going to move soon. So I kind of just target them, and kind of eliminates any face-to-face, rejection. So it's kind of fun just to write them and send them off and deal with that.
And Charlie, are you doing follow-up? Do you have phone numbers for anybody, or are you doing a follow-up note, or how are you kind of making that next touch?
I don't have phone numbers, and it's probably, I would maybe say, still too soon for follow-up, but what would you say, 2 weeks after you send the first letter, 3, I have no idea, to send a follow-up.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't wait too much longer beyond 2 because then people forget about it. But you did mention you walk with your dog. So as the weather gets nicer, this is a really good excuse to just be out in the neighborhood and have your face out there. So if you have something in that note with your picture on it, they'll know that you're the one who sent it. And that may be an easy introduction, just to say like hello as you're walking your dog. And then maybe they recognize you and maybe you start a conversation. So it may take, that, especially farming a neighborhood, does take time, and it takes consistency and finding something that you want to do that is fun, or at least not major resistance feeling for you, so yeah, I think that's a good step, and it's a good one of the things that you could be working on as far as lead generation. So I think that's great. Now, do
What do
you
you put in
have
that? I'm sorry. What do you put in that note?
So I'm obviously new like everyone else pretty much. So it's kind of just like a header that says, like Keller Williams is, proud to, I forget what it says, but like, welcome Charlie to the firm. And then I leave a space in the middle just to say like, hi, blah, blah, blah. I've lived in this neighborhood my entire life, if you're thinking about selling, and that part's all handwritten. And then at the bottom is like a email signature that, pretty much almost everybody has here. It just has my face, phone number, and then it just says, it's Dolly Realty Group.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Cool. Now, Charlie, for those, do you have like a goal of the number of people you're trying to reach to kind of lead into that closed unit goal that you have? Have you broken it down that far?
No, just kind of sending them out, hoping to get some response soon. I haven't really put a goal to it yet.
Okay, well, that's a good next step. And an example that I have from the numbers that I'm working with is, okay, so say I want to close with 100 happy clients at the end of the year. I have to have about twice as many leads as I do closed units. So play with that calculator a little bit to kind of figure out how many leads you need to get you to closed units for the year. And then what I highly recommend doing is don't just split up your year into 4 equal quarters. If you've been around long enough, you know that generally speaking, the real estate market around here is very seasonal. So quarter 2 tends to be really heavy. Quarter 2 and 3 tend to be really heavy. And a lot of agents do next to no business in quarter 4 and quarter 1. And you don't want to be in that position because you're going to run around like a mad person from quarter 2 to quarter 3. And then quarter 4, you're going to be twiddling your thumbs or recovering from burning yourself out in quarters 2 and 3. You're going to just start to get your act together by about February. So you will have no income for 4 months, which is not good. So being able to break that down, not just into 4 equal parts, but thinking about it in terms of the seasonality. And Charlie's used this visual before, but it's a circle that's cut into 4 pieces, and it's not directly equal pieces that you're working with. So like for me, I know quarters 2 and 3 are heavier, but I'm trying to push myself to work with more people, to make more contacts, to get more people under contract in quarters 1 and 4. So for me, it's not an equal split of 25, 25, 25, 25. For you, if you're looking at 12 transactions, you're not going to have 3, 3, 3, and 3 necessarily. Maybe first quarter is 2, and maybe you didn't reach that. So then, okay, second quarter was going to be 4, but maybe now it needs to be 5. And we know that when you write in an offer that gets accepted, you've got about a month and a half to the point where that closes. So some of this kind of rolls into the next quarter, right? If you get an accepted offer today, it's going to close in quarter 2, not quarter 1. So it's good to think about these pieces as somewhat flexible, as your ultimate goal. But if a lot of times when I'm doing this, I find one quarter maybe didn't quite hit what I was going for, but another quarter just blows it out of the water and it balances out. So that also gives me some momentum. If I have a quarter that's kind of a bummer, first quarter can really be a bummer. I know, hey, I'm on a fresh slate, new second quarter. I only hit my goal last quarter of one. I didn't hit my goal. I only had one sale. I was going for 2. So this quarter, I'm focused on 5. It's a big number. It's pushing me. It makes me nervous. I don't know if I can hit it, but I'm going to try my darndest. And now I need to really be intentional about the 20% of my time I'm spending to get 80% of my results. So for me, that's mornings. Before everybody drives me crazy and needs 1,000 things from me, I'm, morning from 7:30 until 9, I am focused on making sure that appointments are happening, that I've reached out to people, or I'm planning my next email or mailing campaign. I'm writing my handwritten notes. I'm doing the things I need to do because I know I need to touch 200 people this year. I need to get 200 leads in order to close 100 transactions, or even more. This year is weird. So getting a buyer who wants to write an offer, who even writes an offer with you, doesn't necessarily mean you have a closing. So being on the higher end of that, collecting those eggs in your nest, because they're not all going to hatch, is important. And I just feel like it's more manageable, it's more attainable, it's something you can leave behind and start afresh when you work by quarters instead of the full year. So for you, this means, okay, you've got 3/4 of the year left. What were you hoping to make this year? What were you hoping to profit this year? And working backwards from your average commissions to how many sales that means you need to have, and then how many contacts do you need to make. It is not the most fun thing I do every year or quarter, setting up these numbers. It's not my most favorite thing. I find it kind of boring. I would rather talk to people. I don't want to sit there and do numbers forever. But here's the thing, once you set this up, it's really easy to adjust. It's really easy to refresh each quarter. It becomes much more doable. And then how many people do I need to contact this quarter? How many appointments do I need to have that happen? How many appointments do I need to schedule? And it becomes that simple. Oh my gosh, so I need to have 25 leads this quarter. That means I need to be reaching out to however many people per week to get me to that point, right? How many per month? It's really a matter of just breaking it down that simply. How many people do I have to reach out? Okay, so if your goal is not huge, push it a little higher. Okay, well, I'm really hoping for 12, but let's plan for 20. Let's go for 20. That'd be freaking amazing. Okay, now I'm like in it. Now I'm excited. If I sold 20 homes this year, that would be awesome. My first year, rad, let's do it. Then you're pushed a little further. Okay, then break it down from there. Is this doable? It becomes more manageable to bite off little bites, right? Instead of every day starting out like, oh God, I got to sell 20 homes this year and I just don't even know where to start. Cool, well, that gets you nowhere, right? That's not motivating. It's distracting, it's defeating. It has zero manageable steps built into it. It's just a number. It's just a New Year's resolution. It's just a goal without a commitment. So really breaking this down into manageable steps feels silly. It feels so elementary. It feels unnecessary. Like, I know what I'm doing. I just got to reach out to people and it'll just happen, right? I'm telling you, if you set goals, you will blow yourself away. I do this year over year, and every year I'm like, holy crap. But it doesn't seem that ridiculous because it's been broken down into very manageable steps. Last year, I closed 70 transactions. I'm the only agent on my team last year. I have a full-time admin person, 70 transactions. And it felt like, yeah, I worked my butt off, but it felt very doable because we had everything broken down into smaller pieces, because I looked at it from a 1 quarter at a time chomp. It made it more manageable. It made it less overwhelming. It made it very doable. And then each week, the question was, what should I be doing this week to get me to this contacts goal, this leads goal, this contacts goal, this appointments set, appointments that happen, contracts written, all the way to closing? What should I be doing right this moment? And almost always it was, I should be contacting these people, right? I should send somebody a listing from the hot sheet in MLS, just shoot them a text. Hey, I thought of you. I should be on social media commenting for anybody who's asking about a great real estate agent. I should be putting the word out there that I am a real estate agent to remind people so I'm top of mind when they think of real estate. Now, you don't have to do all of these things every day. Find a couple of things, 2 or 3 things that you're really like doing, that you're good at, that you are finding you're getting results from, and stick to it. Be consistent, plan to do these things. If you're going to do some kind of event, if you're going to do something where you're trying to get people's contact information, break that down. What do I have to do first? Okay, I have to set a date for when I'm going to do this drawing, and I'm going to ask people for their contact info for this drawing. Okay, so let's work backwards from there. Okay, how many contacts is my goal? Okay, how am I going to put the word out there? How am I going to collect their information? Break it down into smaller steps. This is the point where like my little kid in me is like, I don't know, mom, just do it. I don't want to, like it just feels like, do I really have to break this down into I know what needs to happen, but you do. I am telling you, you do. Just put it in your planner, your calendar, whatever it is. Today I'm doing step 1. This is step 1. This week I have to contact this many people. And so on Wednesday, I'm going to write my notes to this many people. On Tuesday, I'm going to walk my dog and drop off some door hangers. On Thursday at this time, I'm going to reach out on social media to these people who I haven't talked to in a while. Break it down to that direct, that simple, that I can't make excuses because, well, I got busy and I don't really know what I need to do to get to this point. I'm just going to let the universe hand me people or not, and we'll just see what happens for the next 12 months. And maybe I make it, maybe I don't. 85% of new realtors don't make it to year 2. 85%, you guys. This is people who are not intentional about what they're doing, about how they're spending their time, about what their goals are, about their commitments and their intention every day. This is what it takes to be in the top, right? 10% of us do 90% of the business. There are thousands of real estate agents in Wisconsin. Why is that? It's because there are only so many of us who are willing to take the time to be intentional, to set these commitments, to make the steps to get towards that goal. And we don't just say, I'm going to sell this many homes this year, or like, I have no idea how many homes I'm going to sell this year because, we'll just see what happens because I'm new. So excuses, right? It's not going to get you anywhere. It can feel overwhelming, but having these quarterly breakouts makes it more manageable. It allows you to say no to unimportant things, right? My transaction goal is my number 1. This is going to get me to the point where I can quit that part-time job, where I can do this full time and really, really go all in and love it. I can prove to myself that I made the right decision to jump into this business. You have to have a big why behind what you're doing, but breaking it down into something that's not so overwhelming per quarter is really helpful. And then it gets broken down smaller to the month, to the week, to today. What do I do at this time on Wednesdays, on Tuesdays? Break it down that literally so that you don't have to question, you don't have to decide, you don't have to think about what you should be doing right now. It's all broken down for you. And this time of the year is the perfect time to take some thinking time, to take some time to focus on your business, to do yourself that favor, your future self, to take the time to actually break that stuff down. Get it in your calendar, break it down on your ideal week. Take the time to do it. It's easy to get caught up in the runaround of this job. Oh shoot, now I gotta, show this house and I have to go right now and I write this offer right now. Take the time to do yourself the favor of planning. It will pay off. It will pay off for you. It'll pay off for your clients. If you feel scattered, if you feel like you have no purpose, if you don't know what your goal is, then you're not going to be the best agent you can be for your clients. So this is important stuff. It's not like the stuff on the side that you can like do when you have more business. Like it is what gives you more business. It is. Trust me. So taking the time to put this together is really huge. And like I said, have a project goal for the quarter. And then you don't feel like you're missing, there's too many things you want to do and it's giving you anxiety. Like just pick one thing, keep the rest in that basket and know that next quarter you can pick another thing. And if you finish it before the quarter's over, cool, pick another project goal. That's fine. There's like, nobody's over your shoulder telling you you're breaking the rules, but giving yourself that structure, giving yourself that commitment, and really being dedicated to making it happen is how you're going to see progress. So it's nice to just say, this is how many sales I want to have this year, or it's nice to just say, well, I'm new, so I'm just going to see what happens. That is a easy, low maintenance approach, but you're going to get a real low maintenance response, right? You're going to end up with fewer sales. You're going to end up less organized. You're going to end up distracted. You're going to end up wasting more time than you use thoughtfully. And at the end of the day, it's about that 20% effort. 20% of your day is where you're doing most of what you should be doing to get 80% of your results. So when can that happen? Is it in the morning? Is it midday? Is it a certain block of time each day on certain days of the week? How are you getting yourself to that point? And if it's your lead generation, which should be top of your list, or it's how you're getting towards a project goal, which may be related to your lead generation, or it's a project goal where you're making sure that you are going to do your job well when those leads start rolling in, because that'll be the next thing, that you're setting up those systems, or you're practicing your offer writing, or you're going through a contract. Make that your other goal. Make that your project goal. The quarters aren't that long. And as you go along, there's always stuff you've got to learn. There's always projects you could be doing. There's always things that your business needs. You just have to pick what's top priority. And it comes back to what's most important to you, what your major goals or commitments are, and what's driving all this. What's your why? Like, why are you even doing this? If your goal is to make as much money as possible, you should be looking at your business in that way. If your goal is to build relationships, build community, be a more important part of your neighborhood, well, then you're probably pouring a lot more time into your farm. So it comes down to that individual soul stirring, fire in your belly reason why you're doing this, and then make it a commitment and not just a resolution, right? Build it backwards and be really thoughtful about it and take the time to do it. Don't just say, well, I kind of set goals. I didn't really, I know what I should be doing, but I don't know how many people I should be contacting. Well, cool. Step one, you know you should be contacting people. What's the next thing? What does a professional CEO of your business do? They set a goal. They build out the numbers backwards. They track it. Just because you're a new agent and an independent agent in many cases doesn't mean you can't treat this like a business. Doesn't mean you can't think like a CEO, right? Even when you're new, you will find a much greater response from the real estate universe if you step into this role very intentionally, like you run the show, like you've made these big goals, these big decisions, and you've broken them down into manageable steps. And people will be blown away. You will be blown away by your progress because you've been really intentional about it. You're not just floating through the year, kind of seeing what happens and spinning off into tangents because there's so many things you need to do. You're just saying, look, I know, even though I'm new, I know how much money I want to make. I know how many transactions I need to have to get there. I know how many people I need to contact to start with to get me to that point of closed transactions. And I know how I'm going to spend my time every day, every week, every month, every quarter to get me to that goal. I have clarity on that. All the other stuff I can figure out with a project goal. I can set some time aside each day to practice my contracts. I can watch the videos or attend the classes and make note of things maybe I want to do in the future, or just have reassurance that what I'm doing is what I should be doing, or get that push I need to say, okay, I'm doing some lead generation, but now I need to be really intentional about how many people I'm contacting, about what time of day I'm doing it, about how often I'm doing this a week, about where I should be to goal each month. Tracking it, having that accountability, that next piece is so huge. You can always call me to do that. You just have to text me to set up a time. Tell me your goals. Tell me where you are at that point. What are you doing next week? You can have an accountability partner in me or in each other, another agent, someone else that you trust who will be straight with you about where you are with things and what you need to do. You can hire a coach. There's a lot of options, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're new. It doesn't matter if you're an independent agent. It doesn't matter if you have a part-time job outside of this. If you want to do this, then do it. Make a goal, set it out, lay it out all the way back to what am I doing right now? What should I be doing right now? If going to this class is what you should be doing to like get your mind right and figure out what you should be doing next, great. Make note, take a nugget from it, get on command right after the class and figure out your numbers, whatever you have to do, or say like, I got to do this other thing. I got kids I got to pick up at school. Cool. So tomorrow at this time, I'm spending an hour uninterrupted without my phone distracting me to work on this project. This is an appointment with myself. That's what you need to do. CEOs don't answer their phone every moment because they've got important stuff to work on, right? And we understand that. Oh, of course. That's how you should be treating your business. Okay, this is a blocked, uninterrupted period of time when I'm working on this really important thing that's going to help me get progress in my business. If I have clients who are trying to schedule a showing or whatever, I'm going to be proactive and just tell them at this point, from this time to this time, I won't be available, but I'll get back to you right away after. Or like, hey, let's get this scheduled before I get to this block in my day. So the more you think of how you're doing things as running your business, as building your empire, as getting yourself to those major goals, because the why, the reason why you want that net proceeds at the end of the year, the reason why you want to do this is so compelling that you get emotional about it. That's what it all comes back to. So it sounds a little harsh. Stephanie mentioned this morning, you know, your lack of preparedness is not my emergency. That is true. If you get towards the end of the year and you're like, oh my God, I haven't even paid, I haven't capped, I can't pay my bills, I'm like dying for that next commission check. Like you have the control. It's in your hands. You're the driver. So like set those goals. Use your time intentionally. If you don't have the time, look into connecting with a team. Look into pairing up with somebody. Look into having Renee or Julie help you with your contract to close. If you're dedicated to doing this, if you're dedicated to being successful at this, you have to figure out ways to make it work, whatever your situation. So leads, listings, and leverage. If you need leverage, you need that help from other people, do it. And oh my gosh, if you can find some listings, please do. Please put them on the market. We need them. And they pay you better and they have babies and there's all kinds of great things about them. And if you get buyers too, great. Those folks lead to referrals. Those folks become repeated clients. They become listings later. Don't write them off entirely. But you know, be intentional about how you're spending your time, about how you're setting your goals, and really take the time to break them down. Command is a super handy tool for that. I am not on my computer all the time, so I use Command to set them up. And then I make note in my paper planner. And I track my people on Post-it notes, but I also use Trello on my phone, which is basically virtual Post-it notes. So however you can track people, do that for you. You can use Command for that. You could use a spreadsheet. But it most of the time when I feel like, oh my gosh, I'm not hitting my goals. Oh my gosh, this isn't working out. Oh my gosh, I'm feeling like I'm losing momentum. I just look to where I am to goal. I track where I am at this point in the year. And most of the time it's really encouraging. So having those things in place just takes a little bit of time, just takes a little bit of effort and intention. And then they're there. And then you use it every quarter. And then you just have to plug in some numbers and continue to be accountable and checking in, and you're going to fall off course. I am so off my ideal week right now, you guys. It's not even funny. I'm so off of it, but I know it's there. I know what I need to do. I'm going to revisit it. It's my project goal this quarter. I got to get back on track. I got to set my boundaries and get back to my ideal week, to those blocked schedule times for my most important tasks. So it's not like a one and done. This is like brushing your teeth. You got to work on it every day. It's like taking a shower, you know, like maybe you can go like 2 days, maybe 3 max, but then you got to get back on it. So don't forget about it, but also don't beat yourself up if you fall off course. Redirect. refocus. What am I doing? What should I be doing right now? What is my goal? Why do I want to hit that goal? That's what it all comes back to. Everything is built around that. Everything. This is not a business for people who just walk in and say like, I'll give it a try, see what happens, and then not plan anything. I mean, you can try that, but luck is only going to get you so far, right? And luck is really the crossroads of opportunity and preparedness anyway. So like, you better be ready. So this is something you can all do. This is something that will make this more manageable. This is something will help direct your focus to what's most important. What 20% of your activities should you be focused on to get 80% of your results? That's really what it comes down to. It doesn't necessarily mean you're working 16-hour days, though sometimes that happens. But when it comes down to it, the really important stuff is not a whole day long, drawn out, exhausting thing. It's just the real basic stuff: lead generation, following up with people, having appointments, taking good care of the clients you have, getting help if you can't manage it all. There's nothing wrong with that. So I hope that this is giving you some momentum into Q2, the busiest quarter of the year traditionally, though we've had one heck of a Q1. No shame in whatever happened in Q1. This is a fresh quarter. You got a fresh start. No time to give yourself a hard time about what you did last quarter. This is your fresh start. You're starting new now. Okay, so for the rest of the year, this is what I need to do. I have 3 quarters left. How do I break this down to this quarter? What am I going to focus on? How am I going to spend my time? What are my goals? How many people do I want to get to the closing table happily by the end of the quarter? And you have so much opportunity in terms of activity in the market. It's just a matter of getting listings to keep your momentum going, because those sell right away, and buyers to the point where you can get them an accepted offer. And that comes down to understanding contracts and what it takes to get an offer accepted. So that maybe that's your project goal this quarter. So you're in control. You drive the ship. You get to decide. If you want to sell 40 homes this year, freaking go for it. And then figure out how you're going to do it and then stick to it. And then if you don't hit that goal, don't give yourself a hard time. You probably did so much more business than you ever thought you could. Right? Aim high within reason. Cool. We've got a little bit of time left. I'm curious to hear if anybody has, having heard this, kind of has something in mind that they want to focus on, has some numbers in place. I mean, when I first started my first year, I sold 12 homes, and that was really good. I was rookie of the year. I think that's a great aim if you're new, like try to hit that or a little more. But it comes down to like, how much do you want to make? How much do you need to make? What's your real reason behind it? So whatever your numbers are, they're yours. Doesn't matter what anybody else's are. But does anybody have one they want to share for accountability?
I have a like monthly project goal I could share.
Great.
Steph has been really nice on our team to sit down with me and like have me explain the different components of the offer to purchase to her as if she's my buyer. And it's kind of amazing, even though you think you do a nice job explaining it, there's always a better way to do it. So just, it's a different script that we need to practice. So that's going to be my goal for the project in April, is to really master explaining all the different components of the OTP.
That's awesome, Benji. And that brings up a good point. If you want to really make sure you know something, teach it to somebody else. Explain it to somebody else. And you will realize how much you know or don't know. Yeah, to somebody who knows it better than you. That's even better. That's a great one. Anybody else? Project goal? Transactions goal? Contacts to lead to transactions? Are you all still bound and determined to just float through the ethosphere of real estate and see what happens, and maybe you make it, maybe you don't?
I certainly need to develop some more concrete systems for the lead gen, because, like you were saying, for me, phone calls just are not fun. So I've been trying to set up, coffee meetings with old friends, just trying to reconnect with people and build my sphere out that way. But it does feel a lot of the time like I'm firing blindly. So kind of sitting down and taking the time to set, you know, attainable goals in shorter time periods, I think will be really helpful, because setting goals for the whole year kind of also makes it easy to be like, I got the whole year. You know, it's like a big
Yeah.
thing, so it's easier to kind of blow it off, I guess. So the short term definitely makes you more accountable to yourself, I think.
Yeah, that's a good point, Isaac. You definitely feel the squeeze when you're like, okay, so this quarter, I need to close with this many happy clients. And that means this month, I need to close with this many happy clients. And that means if they're closing it in a month and a half, I need to have this many under contract by this date in order to close by the end of the quarter. And suddenly it becomes very real. But then you do it. Then you are very thoughtful about how you're using your time. You bring up another good point, Isaac. When you're new, it's hard to figure out like what lead generation is going to work for you, but it really comes down to connecting with people. That's not a real estate specific thing. How do you connect with people? Do that. However you do that. How do you build relationships? How do you build your sphere? How have you met people in the past? Like, what do you do? Do that. Has it worked? For me, it's face to face. Obviously, in COVID times, that really sucked. But I can still use social media. I can still connect with my past clients. I can still send handwritten notes to anybody in my sphere. So I had to shift a little bit. So you may have to try a couple of different things, and maybe that's a project goal. And while you're working on it, heck, you're lead generating. So it's a twofer. You're two birds, one stone.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I don't have any listings yet or buyers, which sounds kind of sad, but they're going to be coming really soon.
Yeah.
But I don't know exactly what I'm supposed to talk about at like a listing appointment. So is there scripts available?
Yes, there are. There are some videos in the YouTube channel about listing presentations. I know that Janine's done at least a couple in productivity. And there are also, plenty of successful agents around our office who you could tap and ask if they have time. And granted, right now it's a little crazy, to see if they would be willing to share their listing presentation with you, or let you come along with for a listing presentation as a shadow. So there are those opportunities. Joan Reed can be a good resource for that. And so can Andy and Stephanie through the helpline to say like, this is a 411. I just want to get a better feel for what I should be doing for a listing presentation. And then they'll probably say, great, watch this video, prepare what you can, come with that. Let's see how you do. Like Benji said, presenting to somebody who knows more than you, and they can give you some pointers. So, and yeah, I would say to that also, I think for many of us, and Amy included, when you realize you have to do like a listing presentation or a buyer consultation, if you don't have that ready, you will sabotage that opportunity, right? You will be afraid that you don't know what you're doing. And so you'll get somebody to the point where you want to schedule an appointment, and then you're like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. Maybe I can schedule it for like a week from now because I don't have this in place. Like that should be a project goal. Like get that together, because you're not going to be confident that you can do that. Then it's going to be way less motivating to schedule those actual appointments with people, right? Same thing with offer to purchase. If you are not confident in writing that offer and explaining that offer and knowing how that works, then when you have a buyer, there's going to be a little piece of you that's holding back from actually writing an offer because you're scared to death because you don't know what you're doing, right? So get that stuff in place too. And it will help. It'll free up your energy, right? If you're a manifestation person, like the universe will know you're ready. You will put that vibe out there that you know what you're doing and you can take great care of them, and you know how to write a contract, you know how to do a listing presentation, and it'll flow more easily. So that is a piece of it. That is an important thing. And that's a great idea, Amy. Definitely take the time to figure that out, so that as you're connecting with people, you can confidently say like, hey, I'd be happy to come over to your house if you're comfortable with that. And we'll, talk through what you can expect from the process, how I can help you sell your home. That's great. Anybody else?
I have some. So my quarterly goal is 3 transactions and 3 new leads. And then my project goals are practicing writing the offer and the listing. I went to a listing appointment and I took another agent with me because I was scared. So I'm just practicing that. So those are my goals.
Great. And that's a good idea. That's another thing you can do that Gail did, is bring another agent with you on a listing presentation, somebody you trust who can kind of fill in the gaps or be there as your support. We have a great family in KW, and people are really more than happy, surprisingly so, to support or offer advice or be there for you physically. I would also encourage you to, for your leads goal, double it. Leads shrink down to actual closed transactions. So go big on that number. And a lead is just, an initial contact. They become contacts once you have their contact information. Yeah, that's great. And I would say it becomes easy to just pile on the project goals, but I highly encourage you to do them one at a time. It's easy to feel like, oh my God, I have to do them all at once, or like, I'm not going to be ready. And what do I have to do all these things. Like, just focus on one at a time. I'm telling you, multitasking is a lie. It does not work. So just do one at a time. Make it, if you're like, well, if I can get this down and do like, meet with somebody from the helpline or Joan, go over the contract, practice a couple of them. If I can get that done in like a 2-3 week period, then I can move on to the listing contract. Then I can move on to, buyer agency. I can move on to these other contracts. So it doesn't have to fill up the whole quarter. Like, be specific. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do in the first 2 weeks of the quarter is this. Then depending on where I am with that, I'm going to move on to this next thing. It'll help you feel less cluttered and overwhelmed. That's the goal, is to know what you can say no to know what you can set aside, and to know what you should be really focusing on. Anybody else? Are you finding this helpful?
Yeah.
Awesome. I can't wait till we can do this in person, you guys. It's killing me on this video. Thanks, Grady. Cool. Well, I hope that this was what you may either have been looking for or didn't know you needed. This is the end of Q1. We only have 3 quarters left in the year. We don't quite know what's going to happen in the world or our country or state over the next 3 quarters, and especially quarters 3 and 4, as more vaccines happen, as people can go back out and do things. This could become fabulous for business or not so fabulous. So you just got to take it one step at a time, 1 quarter at a time, 1 month at a time, a week at a time, and a day at a time, to control what you can, to be the driver of your business. And then to know that, when you get to the end of the quarter or you get to the end of the week, if you have to tweak things a little bit, if you just need time to reflect on what worked and what didn't, what you're going to do differently next week, you can do that on your own. You can set up a call with me, monitor, be accountable, kind of check in as you go along. It's going to hold you to these things that you're setting in place now. It's going to make them more real. It's going to acknowledge that they exist and that you're making efforts towards them. So it's not just about setting them, it's about making them an active part of your life every day. Even when you fall off course. Okay, tomorrow I'm going to do better. I'm going to plan my day for tomorrow ahead of time so that I really do these things. So that's what it's about. You don't have time to feel bad. You don't have time to freak out. You don't have time to give yourself stress and all these things that you put on yourself that you don't have time for that right now. This business is bananas. Just focus on what you can control. Get this stuff in place and stick to it, or get back on track and keep rolling. That's really what it comes down to. It's the mentality behind what you're doing. Your mindset is everything in this business and in life, let's be honest. So I hope you take this and put some goals in place. Like I said, you can text me to set up a time for accountability if you want to set those goals, and then check in with me next week and say what they are. And we work through making sure those are things you can manage and you've broken down into smaller bits, or find someone who's willing to be your accountability partner. Make sure you're sticking with it. Have somebody else help you do that. All right, that's all I got on a Tuesday. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. I hope you have a fabulous quarter. I'm so excited about the clean slate of the next 3 months. I'm energized by the opportunity and the possibility. I hope you are too. And I'll see you next week. Actually in 2 weeks, because next week Steph Minnick will be here to talk about some frequently asked questions from the helpline. And then I'll be back in 2 weeks. Thanks
Quick
for coming.
question, Amanda.
Yeah.
Just,
Thank you.
I didn't want to hold up the whole group. It's just an off question. I have a Centralock on my listing, and someone just said they don't have Centralock and asked for a code. Is that the CBS code?
No, it's a
I saw
1 day code. It's a 1 day code. This is a good thing. Everybody should get their freaking Centralock set up. It's super annoying when they don't.
How
And
do
you don't
they
want to be
not
a jerk
have
when you
it?
have a listing because they have no idea, or they're too lazy, or they're scared. Yeah, you can do a
Everything
1 day code.
that you've kind of mentioned, it's hard until you like have a listing to like know. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Basically, I remember how you said how like you can notice people's attention to detail, or if they're reading the MLS, but like the most basic of things is all coming to fruition now that I have this listing in West Dallas.
Yeah, now you
So
have
anyways,
perspective
okay.
on how listing agents view buyer's agents. You will become a
I'm
better
like,
buyer's agent.
No.
Yeah.
So I can just do that maybe through the app, send them a one-time
Yep.
code somehow through the
Yeah, you go to
Centralock
my
app or showing
lock
time.
boxes in the
Okay.
Centralock app. You go to my lock boxes and you go to a 1 day code, and I would just confirm like, this is, you can set it up so you can send it where it gives them all the instructions,
Okay.
and just make sure they know, that it's for the day that they're doing the showing.
Okay.
Yeah.
One
And
quick
then-
question on that Centralock.
Yeah.
I got mine set up and it's on my phone, but where do I get the locks?
From the GMAR.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah,
stop by
so
them?
you can contact them directly. There's, you can actually send them an email to request lock boxes, and then they put them together in a little rubber band and plunk them down by the window at their office on Burleigh and 124th. And you just wait, is it Burleigh? No, it's Center and 124th. You just show up and walk in and grab the packet of lock boxes with your name on it.
And
Super easy.
are they free?
So technically we pay for them monthly with our GMAR fees.
Okay. And how many
Yeah.
do we need? Like 3?
I mean, it depends on how many listings you have coming up, expect to have. I'd say having at least 2 or 3 on hand is great.
Okay.
And you can always get more.
Amanda, one other really off question.
Yeah.
I'm trying to price this like very unique home that, like Pius, where Pius is, there's like this cute little neighborhood behind it. And this home used to be like a butcher and grocery shop in the front of the home. It almost has like a storefront look. So it doesn't look like a typical single family home, but this woman bought it like 20 years ago and basically made it a single family home. You walk in, it's like huge, big square space where literally a meat cooler is also there. And then you go through a door and then there's like 2 small bedrooms, a little sitting area, and a little kitchen. And I am trying to like price this, and it's 1,800 square feet. Every other home around it is tops 1,000, 1,200, tiny. And I'm panicked that I'm either going to be off by like $15,000 to like $100,000, because if I'm doing it by square foot, I'm like, well, it would be like 300 some thousand, but nothing has sold.
Can't do it by square foot. Yeah. When you've got a
Okay.
big house in a neighborhood where it's like the only big house, going dollars per square foot doesn't work. It way prices you out of the market. Yeah.
Right.
So look at it as best you can through the eyes of a buyer who is shopping for a house of that many bedrooms and bathrooms, and go outside of that neighborhood. You still have to be, if it's city of Milwaukee, you still have to be a city of Milwaukee with your comps, but you're going to have to go a little further out to find something of a similar square footage, but also keeping in mind there's some goofy things about that house, right? Like the bedrooms are small and the original living quarters are small. So look at it through the eyes of a buyer. What's out there right now? What has sold in the last 3 to 4 months? And where do you think the value is based on those comparables? Because
Okay.
ultimately that's what it's going to come down to, right? Your audience is agents, buyers, appraisers. So agents know what's happening in the market. They know, or should know, what's going on in the neighborhood, and they should be able to pull comps. And they know what's been up for sale recently and how fast it's gone and for how much. Buyers are tracking all that stuff and ultimately comparing it side by side with whatever's available in the market. And appraisers need to pull comps of a similar number of bedrooms and bathrooms, ideally style and number of square footage, but you know that that's going to be a little different. And within a 4-block radius-ish, depending on where you are, within the last 3 to 4 months. So knowing those 3 audiences, you're going to have to look at it from a few different perspectives. And then of course, account for that under market value pricing that's happening.
And she was like, I'd like to just like have you put feelers out to your people while I kind of tidy up here, and in like a month we'll put it on the market. And I guess I'm trying to decipher between like what's a single party listing opportunity and what's like an excluded listing, which I'm so scared of, can't say anything. And I'm like, are those the one and the same? Are they different?
They're
I
different.
want to talk about it. I want to tell people like things.
Yeah. Yeah. If you have, in a perfect world, you would get it into delayed status at least. You've got 21
Okay.
days from the start of that to the time it goes live. And so she can be preparing. You only need 1 picture for a delayed status listing. So you can get your pictures later. But then it's out there. People can ask about it, but they can't see it until live date, which you can tell
Okay.
your seller is when it's going to be worth the most in someone's eyes, is when it's ready, or as ready as it's going to be. So that's an ideal scenario. Now, if it's in delayed status and somebody wants a single party, it's in delayed status, so you can't show it. They can
Gotcha.
write an offer sight unseen.
Because once you get the listing contract, it like has to be put into MLS as delayed or excluded. Like those are the 2. There's no like other option.
Well, and excluded doesn't go into MLS. Excluded is, well, there's a spreadsheet in MLS for excluded listings, but it doesn't go in as a listing.
Okay.
Yeah. So
You just
single
send
party,
your
you
listing
could do,
contract and that excluded thing to MLS.
you send for a delayed list. Yeah, for excluded listing, you'd have to send that in. For delayed listing, you have to have your listing contract and that seller's agreement to delay the listing all as one PDF in the MLS documents.
Okay.
But then once you
'Cause that
set
was-
that
yeah.
start date, that's your start date, or you have to withdraw it.
Okay. I don't like the MLS rules. They're
Yeah, they're
scary.
very strict because some people take advantage of them.
I didn't know the fines were thousands of dollars.
And they're,
I thought it
yeah,
was like when people talk about the fines, I'm like, oh, like $20 or something. And then I like heard, I was like, oh, don't want to
yeah.
mess
For
this up.
other things, they're less, but for that, they're high, and they're really cracking down. So yeah, I'd say when in doubt, call Joan. She is
Yeah, I was
the
gonna talk to Joan.
master of all that stuff. She's been on arbitration board for a long time. She can really give you the nitty gritty. She's very black and white, so she'll keep you, she won't lead you astray. Yeah, but it's a challenging position to be in, but the alternative is you don't get them signed on anything and you try to set up a single party listing at the risk that somebody else could list it or they could sell it with somebody else. So, and
Gotcha.
sometimes it's worth that trade-off, sometimes it's not.
Okay. Thank you so much for the advice.
Sure. You're welcome.
Bye,
All right, y'all
Amanda.
who remain
I'll let
online,
you go.
enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye.
Bye.